I wouldn't actually let it affect me personally. Okay. What I mean by that is it's very easy for you to start questioning things. Like someone goes through a really tough thing with a client, they start questioning. I've done this in the past, right? You start questioning, should I really be doing this? Am I cut out for this? Maybe I'm not. And all these negative kind of things come. And a lot of times when that happens, people just stop. They just stop doing that thing and they ruin their life. Like I say, it's the wrong way to go, right? This is very, very normal. You don't have the answers to everything. You're never going to know how to do everything, right? So whatever happens, don't let it affect you negatively. But what I would do is I would reflect on my own performance. So whenever something's not going well, I reflect on my own performance. So every single webinar, for example, I do for Muslim CEO, I reflect on my own performance and I share it with the partners. This is what I did well. This is what I didn't do well. This is an issue. This was good. All of this stuff, right? So I would reflect on my own performance and say, where are the gaps in my performance? Because I could be me with all my experience, alhamdulillah, go and coach someone and do a really bad job, right? Yeah. Just because I'm qualified experience, it doesn't mean I'm going to do a great job. It could be that my performance is messed up. So is it that I can't actually handle this because my capacity is not there? Or is it I just messed up and I wasn't there? Like maybe I was tired today. Maybe I wasn't on the call, focused. What is it? Right? So figuring out what is the gap in my own performance, right? And then also I want to figure out what's the gap in their performance, right? Actually pinpoint what are they actually struggling with. And the great thing about you being on a program like this, bro, is that what you'll realize is that a lot of coaching, it just comes down to either their mindset, right? Or their communication, with themselves or with other people or whatever, or their action, right? So with a lot of this stuff, it's just okay, what is the fundamental problem here? Okay, this is the problem. Now with this problem, what mindset does he have? What mindset do I need to get him to? How is he communicating with himself and everyone else? How should he communicate with himself and everyone else? What action is he taking? What action does he need to take, right? So is that basically reflecting on his performance, seeing what's actually going wrong here and figuring it out in terms of these three things, what can we actually do, right? Of course, there's other things, by the way, like environment and other things that you can do as well, influentially, right? But generally, thinking about his performance. Then the other thing I would do is that if there's a real gap in your own capacity, I would actually see it less of a problem and a negative thing for me, but rather as a positive for me to make it into something of my own benefit, right? Use it for it to be something beneficial. And it's something I read this book recently. I think it was a really good idea. They said that every time your child misbehaves, see it as an opportunity for learning for the child, right? So most parents, when they see a child do something wrong, they go mad, right? We get upset at the child, we might shout depending on how extreme it is, all this stuff, and you behave a certain way, right? And what the book keeps saying is that, look, when those things happen, rather than exploding on the kids and doing all this kind of stuff, this is the time for you to sit the kid down and go, what do you think you did there? Do you think that's the right thing? Do you think Allah will be pleased with that? How should you? And just do it as a learning thing, right? And I thought it was a really good point, especially as a parent who's always on their case and stuff. I thought it was a really good thing. So I would actually use this whole thing for my own benefit, and I would make this a growth opportunity. And then the other thing I would say is that remember to make dua, because sometimes we as coaches can fool ourselves that we're going to help them. And so make sure that your trust is actually in Allah, and make sure that the client's trust is in Allah, and make sure that you're making dua for the client, and make sure that the client is making dua for himself or herself as well, right? Because when they do that, then they're connecting to the one that's actually going to help them make that change.